Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful today in the studio with my slow stitch journal project. So I am way behind. It's May. See, I'm really way behind. It's May 12th and I have yet to do the video for April. And so that's what I'm going to do today. So that I can get started on May's page that I haven't even started. I haven't done any more on my cover. I have done a little bit, I think, since I showed my title page. I still want to work on the stitchery letters, and then I've got to work on my bird. But I think the rest of the edges, I've done some flowers and different things. So I think I haven't worked on this in a while, but hopefully soon. And then I have not stitched in any of my pages in case I wanted to rearrange. Well, actually, I stitched these in, but I haven't done my sampler for whatever reason. And then I haven't stitched in my last block, which was the April block, March. See, I'm so behind, I don't know what month I'm on. And then this is my April block. And I think I like them together, so I think I'll still be stitching these in, and then but I want to make sure, I think, before I do my May block here, and then June will go there. So I'll show you what I did. I hadn't decided for sure that I was finished with this one, but I think I am, just because I'm so far behind. So for this block, maybe I'll just kind of go like this a little bit. For this block, the month was a quilt background, a vintage quilt background, and then country cottage. And for the quilt background, I didn't have an old quilt at the time, and so I actually have a video where I showed how I made a faux quilt by printing a photo of a vintage quilt onto fabric. I ended up not using that one because I did find a vintage quilt at a local antique store that I loved, and it fit perfect with the idea that I wanted for my composition. So it was a Dresden plate pattern, so the circle, and then it happened to have the centers of the Dresden plate pattern were yellow, and so that was perfect because I kind of wanted to feel like it was the sun with the sun rays. And so that's why I'm not sure if I'm finished, because I really didn't do any stitching on this part at all, on the upper part. I did do just kind of a cantha stitch on the sun part. So I may go back and just do some rays here, I don't know, before I stitch it in. But that was kind of my base. Once I finally got that figured out, I did just use the hidden stitch to attach the base. I did I took the quilt apart, the batting out of it, so that it wouldn't be too thick. So it's still quilted, but it's just a little thinner layers to go through. So I have that for my background. And then for my cottage, it took me a while to get started because I wanted to do a Cotswold cottage with the wavy roof, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to do that. So I went through some fabrics that I had. I wanted something real textural so it would have that thatch roof feel. And I found the French grain sacks that I have, and I had cut one up, so it's totally the wrong color, but I just took that, and then I used my Distress Oxides sprays, and I just kind of made it the color that I wanted, but it was the perfect thing because it had the right texture. When I was cutting the little piece out, I had the seam of the sack still intact. And that was the perfect piece to use because it gave that extra layer over the point of the roof. You know, they have like an extra layer to keep the water out. So it kind of gave me that whole look. So I wanted it to have the wavy look over the top, the upper story windows. And so when I did that, I had a big wrinkle in my fabric to begin with, just because it's an old grain sack and it had a crease in it. So that kind of made the perfect spot to give me some movement. And then I just cut the piece kind of a little wider than I needed. And then that way I could when I sewed it down, I could kind of move in these edges. And I did kind of cut a little bit of an arch in that so that you would see the windows peeking out. And just when I sewed it on, there's nothing stuffed in there. It's just because that fabric is so thick that crease held up as far as being three-dimensional. So it took me a bit to figure out the roof. But once I did, then it kind of started all going together. So I had went online and just, Googled Cotswold cottage to just see a bunch of different pictures so that I can kind of envision my own, but with parts and pieces. So I liked how the windows were little paned windows. For the background of my cottage, I used, now I can't even remember, it's been so long. I think I used kind of a linen-y, heavier fabric. And then for my windows, if you can see that it's just still textural. And then for my windows, I used some buffalo check, and that's this. And this one is like a decorator weight, so it's really heavy. And I have put together a new bundle of vintage quilt bundle of fabrics, which is what I did when I had this quilt. I cut it up and shared it. I also did another quilt, and then I included some of this in it. And I liked the idea that when you look at photos of houses, the windows look black, but not solid black. And so I wanted that kind of look of it's black, but it's not solid, so that it would look like a window. And so I just chose one of these buffalo check squares because this is woven fabric, it's not printed, so you get that kind of variation in color. And so I cut a piece of that for my my teeny tiny windows, and then I just used the threads to stitch the little mullions in the windows. And then the door, I wanted kind of an archway over it, so I just used some twine for the sides, just to kind of give it that post, texture. And then I just cut a little piece again of this French sack, just to make kind of like the eave over the door, and did that. So that was the base for my cottage. This little piece here is actually another piece of fabric, if you can differentiate that. It is from Kathy Holden. It's a Kathy Holden fabric. I had bought a Fat Quarters bundle of a variety of her fabrics. I think that was like flea market finds. And this one is like of paint by number pictures. And so there was a piece in there. I kind of kept looking at these to see, about a cottage or that kind of thing. But there was a piece that had a little bridge and water and some bushes and some trees. The piece didn't have this part of the trees. It just kind of had the trunks of the trees. So I put a little piece of that because I was trying to give myself some dimension to my, some depth to my picture. And so I wanted the cottage up front, but I wanted to see off in the distance. So it has a little bridge and some water and some mountains. So I thought, well, I'll just put a little patch of that behind my cottage just for a little bit of scenery. So I did that. And then I knew this tree wasn't there at all. I knew I wanted my cottage to kind of feel tucked in. And so I'm half tempted to put some more trees because I really wanted that kind of overgrown, hidden cottage kind of look. So I did more trees. I did a trunk here with just some kind of random split stitch in some brown colors. I did just some little straight stitch along the trunk of this in another color, some kind of running stitch here and here. The chimney of my cottage is another piece of the Kathy Holden, another piece of her fabric that is all stamps. And so I just found, because again, it made the color wasn't totally solid, I found one that kind of had a chimney, a brick color, and then just cut a little piece of that is my chimney. And then for the tree, the bushes and the trees, I did just different sizes and different colors, different number of threads of different greens, and did them in like turkey work, doing some in different lengths of loops too, and just did them really tight just so it would kind of have that tree and bushy kind of look. And then along the front here, I wanted like a little garden fence, which is now pretty much buried, but it was a piece of crocheted like border that had kind of this edge along the top. And I don't know if I have another piece. I'm going to see if I have it here to show. So it was this. So it had just that nice kind of little fence look with like little fence posts. So I just used some of that for my fence. And then I knew I wanted some kind of vine growing up along it. And actually before that, I don't know if you can even see these because it's kind of an underlayer. You know, I have these little windows. I also wanted it to look kind of like it was stone, like a large old stone building. And so I have kind of just outlined in the kind of a similar color just to make it look like kind of some big blocks, bricks in the background of my cottage. And then I wanted to do a vine, so I did, I kind of was trying to get this to look like wisteria. So I just did some green leaves and vining kind of going along. And then I just did French knots, try to do some really kind of loose ones. And then I wanted some to kind of be hanging down, which was a little harder because I wanted them just to kind of dangle. So I just kind of did some, what are they called? Bullion knots, and have them kind of hanging down. So I don't know how successful that was, but and it was an idea. And then this one I wanted to kind of look more like, you know, maybe Morning Glory or something like that. So I did the vines, and then I wanted it to look like a real overgrown kind of garden in the background, and then, you know, along the fence. So I just did colonial knots and French knots in different sizes. They're kind of like nondescript flowers, but I like the kind that, you know, grow up real long, foxglove, that kind of stuff, and lavender and that kind of thing. So, and there's some bullion knots and just different kinds of, you know, lazy daisy stitches and things like that, just to kind of give the impression of tall, overgrown flowers here and here. This one I was trying to kind of have a hydrangea sort of look. My friend Jeannie that passed us last year, she was a huge gardener, and she had the most gorgeous giant hydrangeas that you've ever seen that would grow really tall. So that was kind of a nod to that. And then just more flowers, kind of representing flowers along the walkway, just some kind of stone path. I did kind of want to put a step here, and I haven't done that yet. So I may put like a little step under the door because that looks kind of empty. So just, you know, a bunch of little different kind of flowers, different colors. I wanted it real colorful. So that is my page. So I think I might do a little bit more to it before it goes in, but I want to get started on May's page since I'm so far behind, but it will go there. And that is my share for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I will put links down below for this project, which is Roxy's Journal of Stitchery, in case I didn't mention it at the beginning. I'll include all that information below. It's a fun project. You can start now and just go at your own pace, but I'll put the playlist for the for Sarah and Rachel for the actual project, and then you can watch all theirs. They do 2 videos. Each of them does a video on Wednesdays. So there's 2 videos to watch every week. They break it down into small steps, so it's really easy to do at your own pace. And just a lot of fun. It's the first time I've ever done slow stitching, so it's still a learning curve for me. And I find myself really detail oriented still, even though I think you're supposed to be kind of just loose and have fun with it. But anyway, that's my page. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. So I'll see you next time. Now go make something. Bye.